Good evening. Here's a piquant situation. The BJP is going to form a minority government in Maharashtra, but that same BJP got pulled up today by the Supreme Court for not doing just that here in Delhi, not staking a claim to form a government for the last 8 months. Welcome to the news tonight. I'm Zaka Jacob. These are the headlines that we're tracking on the show tonight. Devendra Fadnavis will become the next Chief Minister of Maharashtra. The BJP finally picks him as the legislature party leader 10 days after the election results. But the BJP seems to be in no hurry to form a government here in Delhi. The Supreme Court pulls up the centre. It asks why there's been such an inordinate delay in forming a government here in Delhi. That's not all. The centre gets a pasting from the Supreme Court. It has to now reveal the names of all black money account holders before 10:30 Wednesday morning. India and Vietnam signed as many as 7 agreements during the visit of Prime Minister Nguyen Thanh Dong. Big-ticket oil exploration deals have been given to ONGC Videsh. And Russia throws another spanner in Ukraine's works. It says it will back the upcoming polls in the rebel-held eastern city of Donetsk, further threatening a fragile ceasefire. So our top story tonight. After more than 10 days since the election results came out, Maharashtra finally now has a new government. Devendra Fadnavis will be the next Chief Minister of the state after he was elected leader of the BJP legislature party. There is no clarity yet, though, whether the BJP will take the support of its estranged ally, the Shiv Sena. For now, it seems like the BJP is very happy to form a minority government in Mumbai.
I'm thankful to all my leaders as well as members of our legislature party. I am thankful to the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Bhai Modi ji, who has led us to victory. At the same time, our party president, Shri Amit Shah ji, and all our national leaders who have helped us to achieve this victory.
The newly elected MLAs of the BJP have chosen Devendra Fadnavis as the leader of its Maharashtra legislature party. The election paves the way for Fadnavis to become the Chief Minister of the state as and when the government is formed. Devendra Fadnavis, who was Prime Minister Narendra Modi's favourite among all contenders, will be BJP's first ever Chief Minister in Maharashtra. Fadnavis, the Maharashtra State Unit President, was elected by the 121 BJP's legislators.
The proposal was moved by Mr. Eknath Khadse, who is the leader of the opposition earlier in the House. He moved the name of Shri Devendra Fadnavis, and the entire legislature party accepted that with a thumping majority.
Soon after his election, Fadnavis went to meet Governor C. Vidyasagar Rao and staked claim to form the government.
I would like to assure people of Maharashtra that we will follow the same path which is followed by Honorable Modi ji, the path of inclusiveness, the path of development, the path of transparency.
देवेंद्र जी की विजन, उनका कर्तृत्व, उनका नेतृत्व महाराष्ट्र को एक नई दिशा देंगे, ऐसा मेरा विश्वास है। देवेंद्र जी के पीछे निश्चित रूप से महाराष्ट्र की जनता भी खड़ी है, कार्यकर्ता भी खड़े हैं, पार्टी भी खड़ी है और दिल्ली में नरेंद्र मोदी जी और मैं, हम सब लोग उनके पीछे खड़े रहेंगे। केंद्र सरकार का पूरा सहयोग महाराष्ट्र को मिलेगा।
From an obscure corporator to becoming the youngest mayor of Nagpur to the first BJP Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Devendra Fadnavis's climb up the political ladder has been steady. The 44-year-old leader has deep roots in the RSS. At a rally, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had called him Nagpur's gift to the country. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
So, while the BJP and its party workers were celebrating in Mumbai, here in Delhi, the Supreme Court today gave a tongue-lashing both to the centre as well as to the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi for the inordinate delay in the formation of a government. The court said that President's rule cannot go on forever, and after getting rapped on the knuckles today by the court, the BJP indicated it is open to the idea of forming the next government here in Delhi. But both the Congress and the Aam Aadmi Party, they allege the BJP is trying to form a government through the back door. They want fresh elections instead. It's been 8 months since Arvind Kejriwal decided to quit as Chief Minister, leaving Delhi under President's rule. Despite attempts to avoid a midterm poll, the political deadlock remains. The Supreme Court took serious exception to this long delay. It pulled up both the centre and Delhi's Lieutenant Governor, saying that President's rule cannot continue forever.
The court told the government that, look, this plea you have been giving us for the last 5 months, and the case has been repeatedly adjourned on this basis. But in 5 months you have not been able to form the government, etc. Therefore, we cannot go on adjourning the matter on this basis. And therefore, today the court started arguments in this matter.
As the single largest party, the BJP stands the chance of getting a call to stake its claim. The centre told the court that President has approved the LG's proposal to call the BJP to form a government. But the Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress have been accusing the BJP of using unethical means to garner a majority. They are demanding fresh elections.
बीजेपी तैयार है, मगर चुनाव कब करना ये विषय लेफ्टिनेंट गवर्नर के रिपोर्ट के आधार पर केंद्र सरकार अपना निर्णय करेंगे, बाद में चुनाव होगा।
अगर बीजेपी जैसी पार्टी, अगर इनको जरा सा भी रत्ती भर कॉन्फिडेंस होता कि हमारी सरकार बन रही है, पिछले 5 महीने में ये लोग सरकार बना चुके होते हैं। इनको पता है ये टाल रहे हैं बेसिकली।
जिस तरीके से नंबर नहीं होने के बावजूद भारतीय जनता पार्टी सरकार बनाने की कोशिश कर रही है, ये लोकतंत्र के बेसिक मूल्यों की हत्या है।
Presently, the BJP is the single largest party in the Delhi Assembly with 28 seats. This after 3 of its leaders were elected as MPs in the Lok Sabha elections. The AAP has 27 after 1 of its MLAs walked out. The Congress is a distant third with just 8 seats. By-polls to 3 of the vacant seats will take place on the 25th of November. With inputs from Ravindra Sharan, Anu Diwan and Pranav Goswami, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. So why is it that Delhi hasn't had a government for the last 8 months, and why is the BJP so keen on forming a minority government in Mumbai, not quite as keen here in Delhi? Why is it afraid to face the electorate of Delhi again? Mahua Chatterjee is the assistant political editor of the Times of India. She's now joining us live here on the news tonight. Why don't you explain that to our viewers? Why is the BJP running away from facing the electorate here in Delhi, despite the fact that they've been winning election after election, from the general elections to the recent state elections, both in Maharashtra and Haryana? Why not go back to the people of Delhi once again and settle this once and for all?
You know, it's actually getting, I mean, it's been crystal clear. I mean, the fact that, you know, in the peak of Narendra Modi's popularity and, you know, the BJP generally winning state after state with huge mandate, they are still extremely wary of getting into elections in Delhi, because I mean, Delhi may be a small state, but it has a very mixed population, and but those are the broader political reasons. The biggest political reason is that the BJP's present leadership is not leadership at the center, I mean the national leadership, is not confident of the image of the BJP in Delhi. Okay. So that has, therefore they are not sure. I mean, even in a situation where today the AAP seems to have, you know, Congress hardly is in the game with whatever numbers it still has, and if there are re-elections. But with AAP being the main contender, BJP seems to be wary of what sort of a new surprise they might spring, given the fact that, you know, in the last 4-5 months, the AAP has not really been in visibility. Yeah, I mean, why would the BJP, I mean, after winning election after election, be afraid of a political party which has failed to register any presence outside of Delhi? It's practically non-relevant in any other part of the country, and even in Delhi, if you ask a majority of the people, the sense would be that a lot of them were disappointed with Arvind Kejriwal's 49-day stint as Chief Minister. So there are probably lesser people supporting the AAP now than there were before
the last elections here in Delhi. So why would that be such a big concern for the BJP?
I'll tell you, I'll give you a very interesting anecdote on this. I can't name names, but somebody very important had told me this about some months ago, that I'd put this question to them as to why they are really wary of Delhi, or how easy or difficult they look at Delhi's election. And the answer that I really got was that the party, the state unit, that the existing state unit of the BJP is what it is. Not much of it has changed. Okay, the state president and things like that have changed. But the counter that I got from BJP quarters was that look at which are the places where AAP came up to begin with. It came up in places where the political system had looked very corrupted, had become very corrupt. So whether it was BJP or whether it was Congress, the AAP sort of advanced. I mean, and that included a state like Punjab.
That's right.
Where, from where they've managed to get at least 4 MPs. Given a situation that the party was only a few, a year and a half old or whatever.
They can take afford to take the moral high ground, especially when it comes to an issue like corruption. But we'll see how this plays out. The indication that we're getting now is that the BJP is open to the idea of staking claim. We will know in the next few days as this case is heard in the Supreme Court and whether there's any movement from the Lieutenant Governor's office. For the moment, thanks very much for joining us. Mahua Chatterjee, Associate Political Editor of the Times of India, giving us her thoughts and perspective into why this story is becoming so big here in Delhi. We're going to take a break here on the news tonight. When we return, strict travel bans as well as quarantine rules on Ebola. That is provoking a huge debate. This after the state governments of New York and New Jersey suspended what were forced quarantines for returning health workers and soldiers. We have details of that story and a lot more when the news tonight returns. Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Well, it turned out to be quite a horrid day for the centre of the Supreme Court. In the first part, we talked about how the court pulled up the centre for the inordinate delay in forming a government here in Delhi. It also asked the government today to reveal the entire list of names in the black money case. All 700 names have to be given out, and they have to do so before 10:30 a.m. Wednesday morning. The court's order is binding, and it comes a day after the centre revealed just 3 names, and that too, by any stretch of the imagination, simply lightweights. The court even ruled, and this is very interesting, that public interest in this case far overrides the right to privacy.
The Supreme Court has rejected the centre's stand not to disclose all names in the black money case. It turned down a plea to exempt names where criminality is not found. The court has now asked the centre to come out with a full list by Wednesday.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने गवर्नमेंट की ये दलील कि भाई वो पुराने जो ऑर्डर्स थे जिसमें कि उन्होंने नाम डिस्क्लोज करने के लिए कहा था उनको मॉडिफाई किया जाए या क्लैरिफाई किया जाए, वो दलील आज सरकार की ठुकरा दी और उनको बोला है कि हमको तुरंत नाम दो। लोगों के तो स्वॉर्न स्टेटमेंट्स थे इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट के साथ जिसमें उन्होंने एडमिट किया था कि उनके अकाउंट्स थे और ये इलीगल थे।
The centre is ready to oblige, but it also warned of implications, expressing concern that it may lose the support from other countries to get names of more defaulters.
In giving it to either the court, and the government shall place the list before the court, because the government has already given it to the court-constituted SIT. The government is also keen that the procedure followed must be such that the reciprocating countries continue to cooperate with us.
We require to give a sovereign assurance of confidentiality that the names will not be disclosed to the public except to the tax court.
The centre drew flack on Monday for revealing names of only 3 businessmen with illegal money stashed abroad. On Tuesday, opposition parties stepped up pressure after the Supreme Court order.
पूरा का पूरा पैसा काला धन भारत के अंदर आना चाहिए, जैसे कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने चुनाव के दौरान वायदा किया था। 100 दिन तो नहीं हुए, 150 दिन हो गए चलिए अब लेकर के आ जाएं।
पहले कांग्रेस और अब बीजेपी दोनों काला धन वालों को नाम छुपाती और उन्हें बचाती हुई नजर आ रही थी, लेकिन आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने काफी कड़ा फैसला लिया।
It remains to be seen if the court allows making the full list public, which reportedly has some big political names. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
With some big political names, big corporate houses as well. We'll know at 10:30 tomorrow morning whether that list will be made public. The Congress party today held a meeting to review its performance in the recent elections. The party faced a rout in the recent Lok Sabha elections and then, of course, the assembly elections in Maharashtra and Haryana. Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi met with the party's general secretaries and state presidents to discuss the party's performance as well as analyze the reasons for its debacle. Now, the Congress suffered the worst ever defeat in its history in the Lok Sabha polls and also in the assembly polls. It lost power both in Maharashtra and Haryana. The Congress won just over 40 seats in Maharashtra. It's been reduced to just 15 in Haryana. In a bid to boost bilateral ties, India and Vietnam today signed 7 agreements. Speaking after the meeting with the Vietnamese Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the ties are important for the wider region for Asia-Pacific security. Meanwhile, China has been keenly observing developments. It's warned both India and Vietnam against doing anything that would harm Chinese sovereignty.
The second day of Vietnamese Prime Minister Nguyen Thanh Duc's meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Delhi. The meeting assumed significance after the two nations agreed to free navigation in South China Sea amid a controversy with China over disputed waters. On Tuesday, the two nations inked a pact for exploration in 2 additional oil and gas blocks and step up cooperation in areas of defense, security, trade and counter-terrorism.
जल्द ही $100 मिलियन अमेरिकन डॉलर की लाइन ऑफ क्रेडिट को ऑपरेशनलाइज करेंगे, जिससे वियतनाम भारत के नए नेवल वेसल्स प्राप्त करेगा.
Và về việc Ấn Độ tiếp tục hợp tác với Việt Nam thăm dò khai thác dầu khí tại vùng đặc quyền kinh tế và thềm lục địa của Việt Nam ở Biển Đông. Thưa quý vị và các bạn,
But China has taken serious note of the two nations warming up to each other on the South China Sea row. It has warned both countries against harming its sovereignty on the issue.
中国对南沙群岛及其附近海域拥有无可争辩的主权，在南海海域进行正当合理的油气活动，我们不持异议。但是，如果这种活动
China's move to drill in disputed waters and set up airstrips on contested islands sparked maritime clashes this year. Vietnam is trying to build a credible naval deterrent to China with Kilo-class submarines from Russia. It wants the patrol vessels for surveillance of its coast and around its military bases in South China Sea. With inputs from Akhilesh Suman, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's get you more news from across the country that made the headlines in Nationwide. Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari addressed a state transport ministers meeting here in Delhi. He underscored the need to bring FDI in road infrastructure to meet international standards. The meeting also discussed the need for e-governance to ensure a corruption-free system as well as a multimodal transport system. A militant was killed in a gun battle between the army and 3 suspected militants in a village in Hindwara district in Jammu and Kashmir. The militants fired on a joint search party late last night, to which the security personnel retaliated. The Election Commission notified the first of 5 phases of elections for the 87 seats in Jammu and Kashmir. Political parties are yet to release their manifestos or even their list of candidates. The National Disaster Response Force has deployed 7 teams in vulnerable areas in Gujarat to deal with Cyclone Nilofer. The storm is expected to hit Gujarat on the 31st of October. The NDRF has positioned the teams at Gandhidham, Dwarka, Porbandar, Veeraval and Rajkot. The rescue teams, 2 of them, are stationed in Bhuj as well. Some international stories now, and despite pressure from the Ukrainian government, Russia has said that it's going to recognize the results of separatist elections which will be held in eastern Ukraine. Rebel leaders are planning to hold those elections on the 2nd of November. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov saying that the elections in Donetsk and Luhansk are very important to legitimize the authorities there. However, both Ukraine as well as the West are opposing the controversial elections. They even went on to say that the elections should not be held in the first place. They are still accusing Russia of arming the rebels in eastern Ukraine. Ukraine has also urged Russia to put pressure on the separatists not to hold rival elections in the east.
Не перетягиванием Украины то на запад, то на восток, а занимается теми реальными проблемами, которые перед страной стоят. И будет думать о том, как обеспечить единство этой страны.
Meanwhile, strict travel bans and quarantine rules have provoked a huge debate across the world on the Ebola scare, and particularly in the United States. It comes in the wake of the decision by America to isolate soldiers as well as health workers returning from West African countries. That criticism forced America to revoke its decision. Australia has now imposed a visa ban on all Ebola-affected countries.
Amid a raging debate on quarantining people on suspicion of Ebola infections, the US is monitoring soldiers and health workers returning from West African nations.
I don't think that someone should be legally bound to be quarantined in an area when there is little to no risk of transmission.
Healthcare workers who come, leave their families and visit here and are willing to put themselves in the vicinity of Ebola, it's very important that they feel welcomed back in the United States.
UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon condemned the new US rules under which a nurse was isolated in a tent in New Jersey. She was later allowed to go home. Meanwhile, some doctors have sought voluntary home quarantine for high-risk Ebola infections.
This is actually an extreme exaggeration. This is hysterical response, the quarantining of people who are not symptomatic of Ebola. And so we're here in solidarity to make that case and that connection.
Australia has stopped humanitarian and immigration visas from West African nations affected by the Ebola outbreak. Australia has had several Ebola scares, but is yet to record a single case so far.
We're ensuring all prior humanitarian entrants have been subject to 3 separate health checks before their departure, as well as being subjected to on-arrival screening processes and post-arrival monitoring, that other permanent visa holders who have not yet arrived in Australia are being required to submit to a 21-day quarantine period prior to their departure to Australia.
The European Union has sought the mobilization of 40,000 personnel to check the spread. According to the WHO, over 10,000 people have contracted the Ebola virus so far. 4,922 people succumbed to the virus. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
In Hong Kong, demonstrators marked 1 month of their pro-democracy protests. Thousands turned up for a rally outside the Hong Kong government headquarters, clutching umbrellas. It's called the Umbrella Revolution. It's a symbol of these protests. They observed 87 seconds of silence. That's in reference to 87 rounds of tear gas that were fired by police forces during the protests last month. Key protest leaders also addressed the rallies. Activists are calling for full democracy in Hong Kong when the elections come around in 2017.
We would not say that we always have the will that we are optimistic, but we would never give up. And whether the movement would be escalate, then we would say escalate, it could still have a different path.
More international stories coming up in Global Buzz. The Islamic State released a video of British hostage Sean Cantley. The video shows the 43-year-old reporter in the war-damaged town of Kobani. Cantley is seen talking to the camera, rejecting American claims that militants are in retreat. At least 34 people were killed and dozens injured in 2 bomb blasts in Baghdad. In the first attack, a suicide bomber drove a Humvee at a checkpoint south of Baghdad, killing at least 24 people. The second attack was a car bombing which killed at least 10 in Carrara district. Italian President Giorgio Napolitano will give evidence at an anti-mafia trial in Rome. Prosecutors are investigating possible collusion between ministers, police chiefs and the mafia back in the early 1990s. Napolitano denies knowledge of any such negotiation. All right, time for another break here in the news tonight. When we return, all the sports stories, including after winning the season-ending WTA doubles title, an elated Sania Mirza now sets her sights on the #1 spot in doubles. What a year it's been for Sania Mirza. We'll have all the details when the news tonight returns. Welcome back to the news tonight. Time now to focus on some sports stories. An Indian tennis ace, Sania Mirza, has set her sights now on becoming the world #1 in doubles next season. She returned to her native Hyderabad today, fresh from her victory in the prestigious WTA Tour doubles title, along with Cara Black of Zimbabwe. Sania became the first Indian player to win a season finale in almost 40 years. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Sania for her achievement. This has been a great year for Sania. She calls it the best year of her career so far. She's won the mixed doubles of the US Open as well as at the Asian Games.
I'm very happy, obviously, because it was probably the biggest championship that you can win, you know, and it's as big as a Grand Slam. So for me to win both of those in this 1 year, it's been an incredible year for me. And the way, I mean, definitely, I think the love and support that I keep getting from the country every time that I come back is truly amazing, and it inspires us more as athletes to do more.
Nice shades, ain't they? More sports news coming up in Sports Beat. Boxer Sarita Devi has apologized to the International Boxing Association for her conduct during the Asian Games last month. The apology is in line with an attempt to try and make herself eligible for participation in the World Championships that are coming up again in Korea. Sarita Devi was provisionally suspended for refusing to accept her bronze medal after a controversial semi-final loss at the Asian Games. The Spanish Football Federation has banned the legend, the World Cup winning Zinedine Zidane, for 3 months for working as the coach of Real Madrid Castilla without the necessary qualifications. Now, the sanction came after a complaint was filed stating that the Frenchman did not possess the necessary Level 3 qualification required to coach the third-tier Spanish football club. So yet another blow to South African sport. Female boxer Findile Mwelase died on Tuesday after failing to emerge from a 2-week coma. She's a light welterweight champion. She fell into coma after a knockout by Liz Butler in a fight on the 10th of October. This was in Pretoria, the capital. This is the third death of a South African sportsperson in less than 4 days. And our thoughts and prayers with the families of all those sports people who've passed away in South Africa. What a loss for South African sport. That's a wrap of the news tonight, this Tuesday edition. From me, Zaka Jacob, and the rest of the team. We'll catch you again tomorrow night, same time. Good night.